It was 7 o'clock in the morning and snowflakes were still falling as I pulled into the school parking lot, the kind that stick to your coat and melt on your face. I teach 5th grade in Milwaukee, and I usually get in early, coffee and handpapers in my bag, thoughts still waking up. But that morning, something stopped me. Cold across the street right at the school bus stop, there was a puppy just sitting there still unmoving, like he belonged there, like he was waiting. A German shepherd puppy. Small maybe, 3 or 4 months old, ears too big for his head. His fur was soaked, and around his neck, bright red, against the grey, morning was a child's scarf. I didn't think I crossed the street fast, my shoes crunching in the snow. He didn't run, didn't bark, just watched me. With those deep brown eyes, I crouched slowly. "Hey, buddy," I said gently. "Where's your person?" That's when I saw it. A note tucked beneath the scarf and secured to his collar with a tiny plastic clip. My hands were shaking as I pulled it loose. "Her name is Lily. She's gentle. Please take care of her." I had no other choice. No signature, no phone number. Just that. My throat tightened. The puppy. Lily leaned into my hand. She was cold, damp, but not afraid. She wagged her tail just a little slow and hopeful, like she was trying to be brave. A lump formed in my chest. I looked up and down the street. No one, just the silence of fresh snow and a quiet heartbreak. I couldn't explain. I picked her up. She was lighter than she should have been. I felt her ribs. She let out a tiny sigh and buried her face in my jacket. I don't know why, but I whispered, "You're safe now." I didn't know it then, but Lily wasn't just any puppy. She was the start of something I never expected. I carried her into my classroom, wrapped in an old fleece blanket I kept in the trunk. She didn't make a sound. The whole walk just pressed into me like she was afraid I might disappear. I sat at my desk, turned the space heater toward us and held her close as the room slowly warmed. She started to shiver less. Her breathing steadied. Every now and then she'd glance at the door like she was waiting for someone. I couldn't stop wondering who had left her. A child, most likely. That scarf wasn't something a grown-up would tie, and the handwriting on the note, it was careful. Block letters, probably written with shaking hands. It hurt to imagine the moment that kid walked away. I called the office and said I'd be late to start class. No explanation, just needed time. Then I called animal control just to check if anyone had reported a lost dog. Nothing. I checked online postings. Nothing there either. Lily curled up under my desk, paws, tucked tight eyes following my every move. When I'd shift, she'd perk up. When I'd speak, she'd sigh. She didn't bark, didn't cry, just stayed close. I texted my neighbor to bring over some dog food in a bowl. Within 20 minutes, Lily was eating like she hadn't seen food in days. She ate slow, polite, but with a hunger that made my stomach twist. That afternoon, I stayed late after school. I didn't want to take her to a shelter. Not after the way she looked at me. Not after what she'd already been through. I'd fostered animals before. Cats mostly, but this felt different. When I brought her home, she hesitated at the doorway, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed inside. I knelt down, reached out, and she stepped forward, tail low, but wagging ears tilted back in hope. That night, she slept on the floor beside my bed, head resting against my hand. She didn't move once. It was like she needed to make sure I was real. And maybe I needed her just as much. The next morning, I woke to find Lily still curled beside me, her breathing slow and steady. For a moment, I just watched her. The way her chest rose and fell, the tiny twitch in her paw, like she was dreaming I hadn't slept that well in years. Something about having her there so quiet, so trusting, made the silence feel full instead of empty at school. Everyone noticed her immediately. My students gasped when they saw her poking her head out of my office. "Is that your dog, Mr. D. Harris?" they asked, wide-eyed. I hesitated. "Her name's Lily. She's staying with me for now." That was all I could say. By lunch, she was the star of the school, the counselor. Mrs. DeWitt came by and knelt next to her. Lily leaned into her like they'd known each other forever. "She's got something special," Mrs. DeWitt whispered. "Not just sweet. She sees things that made me pause because I'd felt it too." Lily didn't just notice people, she read them. When one of my students, Jamie, who rarely spoke, sat beside her during recess, Lily laid her head on his lap. He didn't move for 10 minutes, and then softly he started talking. Not to her, to me, about the book he was reading. It was the most he'd said in weeks. After school, I found myself researching therapy dogs, requirements, certifications, training. I had no idea if Lily could do it, but something in my gut told me she already was. At home, she followed me from room to room, never more than a few feet away when I cooked. She sat in the corner, eyes soft. When I read, she rested her head on my foot. I caught myself talking to her about work, about my late wife, about how the house had felt too big for too long. And Lily just listened. No judgment, no questions, just presence. That night, as I turned out the lights, she jumped onto the bed without a sound. I didn't stop her. I think we both knew she belonged there. By the end of the week, it felt like Lily had always been with me. She moved through the halls of the school like she belonged, greeting teachers, comforting students, never causing a stir. The janitor, Mr. Lopez, started bringing her treats from the vending machine. The librarian let her curl up by the reading corner during free period. It was like she was stitching herself into the fabric of the building thread by thread. But the more I saw her settle in, the more I thought about the note, about the child who had written it. I couldn't shake the image of small hands tying that scarf, placing her at that bus stop, walking away into the snow. So I started asking around quietly. I spoke with the bus drivers. One of them, Cheryl, remembered seeing Lily. She was there all week. She said same time every morning, sitting like she was waiting for something. Cheryl wiped her eyes. We all thought she belonged to someone nearby. I checked with the counselor, asked if any students had recently moved or started acting differently. She gave me a few names, but nothing felt right. Until Friday afternoon, I saw a boy named Eli standing alone by the playground. He wasn't in my class, but I knew his face. Quiet, polite, always alone. And then I noticed the edge of a red scarf sticking out of his coat pocket. My heart thudded. I walked over slowly. "Hey, Eli," I said. "That's a nice scarf." He looked down, startled. "Thanks, it was hers." I waited. She used to walk with me to the bus every day. His voice cracked. "But we had to move. The new place doesn't allow dogs. My mum said we had to give her up, but I couldn't take her to a shelter. I wanted someone kind to find her." I knelt beside him. "You did something very brave." Tears welled in his eyes. "Is she okay?" I smiled. "She's more than okay. She's changing lives." Eli, including mine. He wiped his face. "Can I see her?" I nodded. "Yeah, buddy, I think she'd really like that." That weekend I brought Lily to the park near Eli's new apartment. I didn't know what to expect. Maybe she wouldn't remember. Maybe too much had changed. But the second she saw him, just a small figure in a puffy coat, near the benches, her whole body lit up. Her tail started wagging so fast it blurred. She took a few hesitant steps forward, then broke into a full run. Eli dropped to his knees. "Lily!" he cried, arms open. She launched into him like she'd been holding her breath for days. He wrapped his arms around her neck and buried his face in her fur, sobbing and laughing at the same time. I looked away for a second, trying to keep it together, but there was no stopping the lump in my throat. They sat like that for a long time. The boy and the puppy reunited, neither of them in a hurry, neither of them needing words, just two hearts remembering what it meant to feel safe. After a while, Eli looked up. "Thank you for taking care of her." "I should be thanking you," I said. "She's done more for me than I ever expected." He smiled, shy and tired. "I miss her, but I'm glad she's okay. I think she's meant to help people. She always made me feel better when things were bad." I nodded. "She still does." Eli reached into his coat and pulled out a tiny stuffed bear. "She used to sleep with this. Can you give it to her?" Lily sniffed the toy, then gently took it in her mouth and laid it on my shoe. Like she knew it was sacred. "I'll keep it with her," I promised. As we walked back to the car, Lily glanced over her shoulder again and again until Eli was out of sight. Then she leaned against my leg and let out a long, soft sigh. She'd said goodbye, but it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like the beginning of something even bigger. On Monday morning, Lily walked into the school like she owned the place, tail high, eyes bright, that little stuffed bear tucked carefully in her mouth. The kids gasped when they saw her. "She brought a toy," someone shouted, but Lily didn't let it go. She carried it like a badge, like a reminder. That day, something shifted. Amy, the quiet boy from my class, asked if Lily could sit by his desk during reading time. I said yes. By the end of the hour, he had read out loud to her an entire chapter. No one prompted him, he just did it. Like Lily's presence made the words less scary. Later, a girl named Tara came in crying after recess. I didn't even have to ask. Lily got up, walked over, and gently nudged her hand. Tara sat on the floor, arms around Lily's neck, and cried until she couldn't anymore. Not loud, just soft, shaking sobs. When she stood up, her eyes were clearer. She hugged me before leaving. By Thursday, the principal called me into her office. I thought I was in trouble. Instead, she handed me a flyer, Therapy Dog Certification Program. She said, "I think you should apply." She's already doing the job. I stared at the paper, then at Lily sitting politely beside me, head tilted, like she understood every word. "She's not even mine," I said quietly. The principal smiled. "She's someone's now." That night I filled out the application. It asked about training, temperament, experience. I didn't have all the answers, but I wrote what I knew, that Lily had a gift, that she saw people, that she didn't flinch at pain and didn't need to be taught how to love. In the living room, Lily lay curled at my feet, the stuffed bear beside her. She looked up as I typed and wagged her tail. Once, slow and steady, I reached down and stroked her head. "We're going to help a lot of people, you and me." And I meant it with everything I had. The certification process took weeks. Interviews, temperament tests, controlled exposure to loud noises, wheelchairs, sudden movements. Lily passed them all like she was born for it. I watched trainers try to rattle her, confuse her, even overwhelm her, but she never panicked, never barked. She just watched, waited, responded with calm, so deep it made people stop and stare. "You sure she's a rescue?" one evaluator asked. "She's got the soul of an old dog." I nodded. She's been through more than most. When the final approval came in, I held the envelope like it was something sacred. Inside was a badge with her name, Lily, Certified Therapy Dog. I knelt beside her, clipped it onto her vest and whispered, "You did it, sweetheart." She wagged her tail like she already knew. We started small, visiting the school counseling office, then reading groups, then finally the children's hospital downtown. I'll never forget our first visit there. Lily walked into the pediatric wing like she'd been doing it her whole life. One boy, no older than 7, had been refusing treatment for days. Wouldn't talk, wouldn't eat. His mum looked at us like we were just another failed attempt, but Lily didn't need instructions. She patted over, sat down beside his bed, and waited. No pressure, no tricks, just presence. He didn't even look at her at first, then slowly his hand moved from beneath the blanket. He touched her ear, and then almost inaudibly, he said, "Hi." His mom gasped. Nurses stopped what they were doing. Lily laid her head on his stomach and closed her eyes. It was like watching a storm break and the sun come through. Every visit after that felt like a ripple from that moment. Kids who hadn't smiled in weeks started laughing. Ones who couldn't sleep found comfort in her weight beside them. Parents held her like they hadn't held anyone in years. And every night when we came home, she'd curl up next to me with that same quiet peace, like she was carrying their pain so they didn't have to. She was more than a therapy dog. She was healing people in ways I still can't explain. Word about Lily started to spread. Local news did a short piece on her, the puppy who waited at a bus stop and found her purpose. The headline made me tear up. They interviewed Eli too with his mother's permission. He stood beside her, clutching her old scarf, and said, "I didn't give her up, I gave her a chance." That line stuck with me. Soon we were invited to speak at community centers, schools, even a youth shelter. Everywhere we went, Lily became a beacon. She had this quiet way of entering a room and making people feel seen. She didn't do tricks, she didn't bark or perform, she just was. And somehow that was enough. One afternoon, we visited a group home for teens dealing with trauma. Tough crowd, arms crossed, eyes down, guarded hearts. The staff warned me, don't be surprised if no one interacts. But Lily had her own plan. She walked over to the farthest corner where a boy sat alone, hoodie up, legs pulled to his chest. She didn't nudge him or ask for attention. She just laid down near his feet, curled into a ball and closed her eyes. 5 minutes passed, then 10, and then his hand moved barely, just enough to rest on her back. I didn't say a word. No one did, but I saw the way his shoulders dropped just a little, like the armor cracked. Moments like that happened again and again, and not just with kids. One day, after a long visit, we stopped by the park to rest. An older man sat on a bench, tears in his eyes, holding a photo. Lily walked over, sat beside him. He looked at her, then at me, and whispered, "She looks just like my Daisy. Lost her 2 months ago, thought I'd never feel that again." He reached down, Lily leaned into his hand. That's when I understood. Lily wasn't just bringing comfort. She was returning something people thought they'd lost forever. Hope. That winter, a storm rolled through Milwaukee, thick and heavy, burying the city in white. Silence. Schools closed. Roads shut down. Power flickered across neighborhoods. The world felt still, like everything had taken a breath and held it. But Lily didn't mind the snow. She'd bound through the drifts in the backyard like a child seeing magic for the first time. Her paws left perfect prints behind her, and every time she turned to look at me, there was this light in her eyes, like she wanted me to follow. I did. One night, just after midnight, the power went out. The house went dark and cold. I lit candles, wrapped myself in blankets. Lily sat beside me, watching the flame flicker, that little stuffed bear still tucked near her bed like it always was. I looked at her, this dog who once sat waiting at a bus stop, and felt this deep ache of gratitude. I didn't say much, just reached over and touched her paw. She placed her other one on top of mine. That was the night I realized something had changed in me. I used to go home to an empty house to silence grief, the echo of a life that used to be full. But now I came home to Lily, and it didn't feel empty anymore. The next day we bundled up and walked to the hospital. Roads were still icy, but the pediatric wing was open, and Lily had her regulars waiting. Kids who didn't understand the world had shut down. All they knew was that Lily hadn't let them down. One of the nurses pulled me aside. "She's more than a therapy dog," she said. "She's an anchor for us." I smiled, blinking back tears. For me too. We walked back home that evening through the snow. Lily walked right beside me, head high, tail swaying gently, and for the first time in years I didn't feel like I was surviving winter. I felt like I was living through it with someone who made the cold feel warm. Spring came slowly that year. The snow melted in patches, revealing the soft brown of earth beneath. Trees began to bud. Kids returned to playgrounds with muddy shoes and flushed cheeks, and Lily, she seemed to bloom with the season. Her coat grew thicker, shinier. Her steps had more bounce. Everywhere we went, people called her name. She wasn't just a visitor anymore. She was part of the community, but something else started to grow too. At the hospital, a new girl had arrived. Her name was Amamira. 9 years old, cancer, bald, thin, quiet. She didn't speak. The first week refused visitors, turned her face to the wall until Lily came in. Amamira didn't react at first, just stared. Lily sat down gently by her bed, not close, just enough to be seen. The next day we returned. Lily took the same spot, silent, patient. On the third day, Amamira whispered, "Is she real?" I nodded. "She is. She looks like the dog from my dream," she said. Lily moved closer, slowly, carefully, and laid her chin on the edge of the bed. Amamira smiled for the first time. From that moment on, Lily was her shadow. She lay beside her during treatments, rested her head on Amira's lap when the nausea hit. Sometimes she'd just breathe with her slow, steady anchoring her in the moment. One day, Amamira looked at me and said, When I feel scared, I hold her ear. It's soft, makes the fear smaller. I didn't know how to respond, just nodded and swallowed hard. Weeks passed, and Mamira got stronger. The day she left the hospital, Lily walked beside her wheelchair all the way to the door. Amir leaned down and kissed her on the head. "Thank you," she whispered, "for being my brave." That night, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, I looked at Lily, her head resting on my foot, and felt a weight lift from my chest. She had carried so many, including me. She didn't ask for praise or reward, she just gave. And somehow, in giving, she healed. I still drive past that bus stop sometimes, the one where I first saw her sitting in the snow with that red scarf and a note that broke my heart. I drive by, slowly watching the sidewalk, the sign, the bench, and every time I see a ghost of that morning, the way she looked at me, not with fear, but with hope, like she was waiting for the world to say yes. I think about Eli too. I still see him now and then. He's taller, smiles more. Last time we met, he brought Lily a new scarf green, this time for spring. She wore it like a crown. People ask me if I rescued Lily. The truth is, she rescued me. She pulled me out of a life that had grown small and quiet and gave it meaning again. She turned silence into connection, loss into purpose. She reminded me that healing doesn't always come in big moments. Sometimes it walks in, quietly on four legs, curls up beside you and just stays. I didn't know I needed her. I didn't know how much one puppy could change everything. But now, every time Lily walks into a room, every time a child reaches out and finds comfort in her fur, I remember that moment by the bus stop. I remember the scarf, the note, the choice someone made, not to abandon her, but to believe the world might still be kind, and I want to be worthy of that belief. So I keep showing up with Lily, with her soft ears and steady gaze and heart too big for her chest, because somewhere out there, another kid is saying goodbye to something they love, hoping it lands in good hands, and we're here to prove that it can. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and share. Your support helps us rescue more animals like Lily and bring hope where it's needed most. Be part of the Brave Paws family, because love like this deserves to be